Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 2, class 4 of our digital journalism venture this semester. We're doing this one remotely because I'm out of town and off the mainland for Google trainings. So open up the week 2 folder and the week 2 schedule and scroll down here to Thursday. So go ahead and hit the pause button and make sure you have that week 2 schedule open. Our link to this video will be right here. I'll add that in once the video is posted. And I do have a few reminders that we're going to talk a little bit about a cool AI tool called summarize.tech. Talk a little bit about the principles and some of the ethical things about journalism and that we have up on the journalist tool or journalist tool, Redline project. Excuse me. Then we'll talk about the 10 commandments of shooting web video. I'll do that in my best Charlton Heston voice. And your homework, which I'm just going to cover right now, so we don't have to do it at the end, is to finish reading chapter 1 in the AP or the AP style, the Journalist Toolbox textbook. And then chapters 4 and 8 in the verification handbook, which is free. The links are right here to chapters 4 and chapter 8. They're very short case studies. It's a good read. Very relevant because we're going to get into fact checking here in a couple of weeks. So I have you read these leading up to it. But very short and easy read. And also this little short Neiman 2024 prediction post about headlines. It was from our comm department program chair, ZZ Papacarisi. Definitely read that. She did a really good job on, kind of the gimmick headlines and how to avoid them. It kind of ties into what we talked about in the last lecture about headline writing. So make sure you've read through all that. A few quick announcements here before we jump into the lecture and hands-on. We'll do some AI stuff today, which will be kind of fun. Next Tuesday, September 10th class will be an SEO 1200. So we're meeting in person next Tuesday. Always check the schedule on the syllabus. Don't email me to confirm it. It's always going to be correct on the syllabus. I rarely ever change, online to, virtual or virtual to in person or vice versa. So just check the syllabus for this, see where we're meeting and when. Follow each other on Twitter and Medium by next Tuesday, and I've got the link to our post of all of our Twitter and Medium accounts. So just go through and make sure you're following everybody on those, including me. And just as a reminder, I mentioned this in the last video, if you're using Google Drive, to find our class Google Drive, you can just go into the shared with me folder on the left, and it'll be in there, one of the top few folders listed. You don't need to go find the email or anything like that. Sometimes students forget that the shared with me, it'll show your drive will show, this drive will show up in your Google Drive because it's been shared with you. So just make sure that you've done that. Next week, we're going to get into weekly readings on the online journalism terms handout. The online journalism terms handout link is right here. It'll also be linked off the syllabus at the times, and I'll remind you of the different sections you're supposed to read. So this will be, the terms from the AP style book. These will actually show up on the midterm. Also, it'll have you go through letters A through C or D through F or whatever, and study these different terms. Because I'm going to start using them in class, things like APIs or application program interface. So make sure that you're reading through these and have a good working knowledge of them. It'll help make the class a lot more interesting because you'll be understanding more of what I'm talking about. And we'll review these, before the midterm as well. So just to make sure, a little reminder that it's there. Some cool tools to set up between now and next week. Google Gemini, which is another large language model, like we had you set up Claude and ChatGPT, which we're going to use Claude a little bit today in class. And also Perplexity AI. Perplexity is one that I've become a big fan of because it not only uses large language model research, it also will go out and search the web for information. And I find it to be a little bit better than Gemini and Claude in that respect. And of course, ChatGPT is only a large language model that goes up to January of 2022. It does have custom GPTs that will go out on the web and search for more current information. We'll start using all these at times throughout the semester. I just want to slowly get you logged in and into all these different types of accounts. Okay, so here's another cool AI tool that is going to be very helpful to you, I think. throughout your career. Summarize.tech. And there are a lot of different tools like this. I found Summarize to be really, really good, and the reporters I've trained it on really like it. If you need to summarize a YouTube video, as long as it uses closed captioning, and most are required to by law, then you can use it to summarize what's in that video, especially if it's a longer one. So you can go into summarize.tech. It's got a little field here to cut and paste the link to the YouTube video in, and you can hit submit and find it. There's some sample ones up here. So, this is one they did of a school board meeting in San Francisco. And when you click on it, it gives you the first hour summary, the second hour summary, and the rest of it. It goes beyond 2 hours. So it breaks it down into these hour or sub-hour chunks. Well, that's nice. You get a nice little overview of what happened during that hour. But when you click on see more, it breaks it down into little 5-minute increments. And it gives you these little summaries on what happened in each. And then you can just go to the timestamp and play the video at that timestamp of what they talked about.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile.
We'll get you off the video there, the video ad there. You can go in and actually play that video from that short little 5-minute segment to double check what's in the summary. This is really good, like especially if you have a lecture that's up on YouTube and you need to summarize it. This will go through and do a pretty good job for you. A lot of my reporters are required to cover, several school board meetings and different city councils from different, attend different conferences and things like that. Here they can just, instead of playing through the whole 2.5 hour video from the meeting, they can get a quick summary of it and go in and just play the part of the video that covers what was the most important, because a lot of these meetings have a lot of routine stuff in them that, the readers don't care about. So it's got all these samples up here. You can just take, one of your video lectures, as long as it has closed captioning, and run a little summary on it. Really good tool and frighteningly accurate. The reporters I told you that I work with on it, really, really, really love it. Some principles that we have up on our redlineproject.news website. I've got a link to them here. I was in your reading to make sure you read through them. Very important because it covers things like our editorial code of conduct, our guiding principles. This is a good thing to share with our readers. That's why we put them up on the website, so they understand that we're transparent in how we do our jobs, builds trust with them. Our fairness policy, that we're committed to accuracy and how we frame stories and things like that. Data and transparency. If you're taking my data journalism class, this would be a big one. How we share our work, show our spreadsheets and our data that we use to create graphics. We actually have little short videos on how this process works. Your rights as an interviewee. Oftentimes too, I have students that have trouble getting interviews with people. Send them this link and show them, hey, we're committed to doing good journalism here. And it often helps that break them down a little bit and understand that we're doing what we're doing here is real journalism and not just making stuff up. That's the impression a lot of people have of us. We've got our AI policy up here. It tells our readers that we don't use AI to write our stories, but that we do use it for writing headlines and a little bit with research and things like that, which is just sometimes we use it to create images which are clearly marked as photo illustrations. So we tell them that we're not using AI to make up stories or things like that. Our diversity guidelines as well, balanced coverage, and trying to avoid bias in our coverage. Also other policies. Anonymous sources is a big one for you guys to read. We don't typically allow anonymous sources in our stories unless it's something relating to a victim of assault, sexual assault, something like that. How we handle suicide coverage. We typically don't cover suicides unless it's a story about, maybe an increase in them or something like that. But again, anonymous sources, it's an important section for you to read and know. And also understanding our reporting process. This is actually in a handout as well, but this graphic explains it quite nicely. This will be a short answer question on your midterm. How we report our stories. We identify the idea or the issue that we're trying to report on. Then we go and research it online, do interviews, things like that, document the problem, record audio, take photos, mapping. Do we find a mapping element to look at patterns for our story? Go and do some additional reporting, find out who this story impacts and interview them. find out who's accountable for this issue. Is it a certain company, or is it a certain politician, or a certain decision made by the city council that's causing this issue to occur, and how can we solve that issue? So we do additional reporting on that. Then we start the production process, writing, editing, and producing the multimedia, building out the web page, which you've already done, step 7 with our practice story. And then step 8, which is sharing it, pushing it out over social media, and then engaging with the readers as they respond to it, as they maybe ask you a question or put a comment on the story, things like that. We engage the reader at that last point. So this 8-step process is something you'll need to explain in a short answer question on our midterm. Like I say, I've got a handout on it that we'll review in a few days. I think late next week. But I just wanted to show you the graphic now, which is a good visual way to kind of remember that process. All right, let's get into the actual lecture here. We'll be a little shorter than we were on Tuesday. So the 10 commandments of shooting web video. These are some general guidelines to follow when you're using your phone to document video of something. And we're going to be doing a mobile reporting assignment here in a week or so that will put this to the test. The key is to keep the camera steady, shoot vertical if you're shooting for social media, shoot horizontal if you're shooting for TV or for YouTube or Vimeo. Okay, vertical is fine for social media, horizontal for TV or for YouTube. Okay, digital and social video. Typically no voiceover from a reporter or reporter stand-up. The source may be narrating it. Raw video or short interviews mixed with B-roll. Typically they're 30 seconds to 3 minutes long. Sometimes the mini docs run a little bit longer. So what is B-roll? B-roll is secondary footage that you can use to flesh out a story. Typically it's going to be footage like, let's say you're doing a story on the Bears quarterback situation, and your interviews with Caleb Williams and the head coach or the offensive coordinator. The video will be of Caleb at practice or Caleb at a game. That's what we call B-roll. That's the action footage as we're listening to Caleb and the coach talk that fleshes out the story. And make sure you allow time in your projects beforehand to shoot B-roll and try to do what we call a shot sheet, just an idea of videos you might want to include, action video you might want to include in your story. Always shoot more video that you think you'll need, and typically you're going to be shooting about 10 to 15 seconds of video. There are 3 different types of digital video formats. This is the Washington Post 3 tiers approach that I helped bring out back in 2000. Pretty old concept, but it's still around today. It was built this way to encourage our photographers at the Washington Post to also shoot video, because they didn't want to. They had to have these little handheld cameras, little Sony bloggy cams, and they go, we're photographers, we're not videographers. So we had to convince them that shooting video was a good thing too. And now they do it all the time. It's just part of their job. So short single shot video or interview, 30 to 60 seconds long. That's tier 1. That's just taking your phone and walking up and interviewing somebody. Who are you going to vote for in the November election and why? And they'll give you, a short response, and that's all it is. Okay, that's just a short single shot interview. And you'll do some of these a little later in the semester with our Twitter exercise and stuff like that. Vignette, that's something a little more complex, where we're putting B-roll and the interviews together, 1 to 3 minutes long. You could do photos as a little photo slideshow with them as well. And either you're narrating it or it's interviews. Typically it's going to be your source interviewing it, or you put text cards into it. Long form video, digital video documentary. Those are typically more than 3 minutes. We're not going to do those in here. But you've seen them before online, where they're doing 4 to 5 minutes, where they're documenting a certain person or certain issue. Those are a little longer and more involved. But we'll show you some examples of some really cool tier 1 and tier 2 videos. Okay, and a couple of those examples are right here. Mexican gray wolves. This was some video that was shot by one of my Arizona State students several years ago. Her name's Laura Sposato. She actually now works for ASU. She goes around and shoots video for them. Is a great storyteller and a great shooter. What makes her a great shooter is she follows this little format down at the bottom. She shoots in sequences. 50% of her shots are close-ups, 25% of her shots are medium range, meaning you're about 6-8 feet away. And then 25% are wide shots where you're more than 8-10 feet away from somebody. The key is to shoot tightly. Get closer to the person when we're interviewing them. So you're seeing them from the chest up, and use microphones so you pick up good audio, because there's always background noise or wind that can interrupt it. But she shoots wide, medium, and tight. Those are sequences, 3 things: wide, medium, and tight. So about half of her shots are close-ups, quarter of them are medium, and a quarter of them are wide. And here's the video that she shot. It was on Mexican gray wolves. We had a traditional TV crew that was out there too shooting it, but Laura did it just for the web. And this is why her video did so well, got a lot more views than the traditional voiceover and stuff like that. She uses text cards to describe everything, and just ambient sound and music.
So I'm the IC, so that's incident commander for the project.
This is a medium range shot. She has a little back glare from the sun. She probably should have turned him around so the sun was shining on him. This thing down here that has his title is called a lower third. It identifies the speaker and their title.
Okay. And so make sure people are in the right
This is a
spot.
medium
and
shot.
directing people.
Medium shot.
Make sure it's a smooth operation.
Tight shot. Tight shot. What's interesting about this is she tried to shoot in through the windshield or through the window. She was getting a lot of glare, but this window was open, so she shot his reflection in the mirrors. Very clever. This is an experienced shooter. This is B-roll.
So the
Tight
capturing is the plane finds a location.
Medium
We
shot.
call in the
Tight
helicopter.
shot.
The helicopter flies underneath the plane.
Wide shot.
Gets a count of the wolf. The pilot and the darter work together to get the wolf in the right spot,
shot.
and you're firing a dart out, and then every so often it hits the wolf, and then you monitor it and it goes down.
Now, this was challenging. They put this wolf on the back of a pickup and they kind of surround the wolf as they're working on it and tagging it. It was hard for Laura to get a good shot, even from the side here. So watch what she does. She goes up beside the pickup and shoots over so she can get the wolf and the people's reaction as they're working on it.
2 darts. First one was.
It can be dangerous. However, we do have very good drugs to enable us to work on the animals safely.
So you take the medical information, the
Shot over the
measurements, the
pickup.
weights and all that kind of
Tight
stuff.
shot.
And we get a collar on it. You do vaccines.
There can be
Another tight
injuries. Unlike your dog or cat or you, before we give drugs, we do not have the luxury of pre-anesthetic blood work, for instance, to know that that animal is healthy. Anything can go wrong.
Wait for it to wake up, and once it's awake in the crate, then you take it and transport it out to as close to the location to where we captured it as we could, and put it back inside its territory, hopefully to live free for a long time.
Okay, so good mix of wide, medium, and tight shots. That last shot she was a little nervous about, with them releasing the wolf. This is a wild animal they're releasing from the cage, and he just took off running. He was scared of her. So, but she wanted that tight shot. I shot a lot of different angles, wide, medium, and tight shots, and got some really good audio and just some beautiful storytelling. She told the story as a process from point A to point B, from when they captured the wolf to when they released the wolf, and told it in a series of steps. So really good, what we call process video. You could do this, shooting a bartender mixing a cocktail, and they walk you through how to mix the cocktail, or a chef preparing a meal and how they do it. You see these a lot on Netflix, these little short vignettes on how they create a certain meal. And they show all the ingredients, and then boom, here's how we all put it together. It's done by step by step. This next one, I'm going to show you one more. This next one was on some work they were doing down at the Gila River in Arizona. And the problem the students ran into when they came back, they got some great video, but the noise was so loud from like chainsaws and big machinery working out there, that the audio, the interviews were almost illegible. You couldn't hear them. It just didn't work. So what we did were text cards instead that conveyed the information, and you'll do this probably quite a bit with your videos for your final projects or for your mobile assignment, is use the text cards to introduce information and then play the video right after it. So that's how they did this one. It's a little different. They went and found some rights-free audio, some music to play with it. Here we go.
Watch live and local news on a variety of networks with no.
The music's not the greatest, but it worked. Use these text cards. Good mixture of wide, medium, and tight shots. And again, they're explaining the process to you. Very loud. Chainsaws. I saw this unedited, and the audio was very loud. They were actually wearing earbuds to help protect their ears. That conveyed all that they learned out there into this little text card, very concise writing. Show them replanting the trees. And they give their credits at the end, and it was part of a grant fund that sent them around the state to do stories. Okay, so those are a couple of really good examples of the types of videos you can do. Now on to the commandments and the general rules we follow. Thou shalt not zoom with my lens. Okay. The one problem with these camera phones or the smartphone cameras is it allows you to pinch and pull and to zoom in. So people stand way back and then try to zoom in. No, walk up with your feet and get close to the person. You should be no more, if you're interviewing somebody, you should be no more than 4 to 5 feet away from them, just enough to frame their chest on up or their waist on up. You get better audio that way, and you also get sharper video, because if you have to zoom in with your fingers on them from a distance, the quality of the video is very poor. So zoom with your feet, not with the lens. Okay. Sequences are what you're after: wide, medium, and close. Okay. Our second commandment: compose thy shot on the thirds. This is what we call the rule of thirds. Okay. Any of these intersecting lines in your camera phones, you can actually turn on this little grid, this little rule of thirds. Any of these crosses here where the stars are is where you should put something interesting. So like when you shoot your vacation photos, your mom and dad probably put everybody in the middle and then the beautiful sunset, right behind you so you can't see it. What you should do is put everybody off to the left or off to the right so you can see the sunset at the other crosshairs. So the sunset would be at this upper right crosshair, and you and your brother and sister over to the left. So that's the rule of thirds. And it works in video and in still photography as well. Here's some examples. Your eyes typically go first to one of two places in this Mother Teresa photo: the juxtaposition of the baby's face with the hands, the old versus young, or her face and her expression. So it's lower right third or upper left third. Very well composed photo. This photographer is no more than 3 feet from Mother Teresa when she got this photo of her. Okay, very close. Okay. Your eye goes right to the duck and to Arnold. This photographer got very lucky. They were shooting a depth of field of all these soldiers, and this one right at the upper left third turned and glared at him. Great photo. Shooting it off center just gives you a little more effect than putting it into the middle. Goes right to those eyes. Upper left third. This is Andy Murray after he won Wimbledon. He's from London. He won Wimbledon. This photo ran 4 columns in almost every newspaper on the planet. Beautifully lit, the light coming down on him. He's in the right, upper right, lower left, or upper right and lower right thirds. In some newspapers cropped it so it was just like a square photo of him and just ruined the shot. Here you have all the people in the background. And, it's just very, very, very moving photo. It's all about framing. Shooting her off center just gives a little more impact to that field in her. Upper right third. Some lighting here. Your upper left and lower right third. Lower left and upper right. You got the moon versus the guy shooting the photography. See how those thirds matter where eyes go? This one's wild. If you look at it for a while, it goes into that upper right third. All those lines direct you right to it. Note the rule of thirds in this shot. The young man who was crying here as he was playing the violin. This is a very famous photo, award-winning photo shot by Marcos Tristeo, who's a very well-known photographer. It's old, it's around 15 years old. But notice how he shot it off center. You got the other kid looking straight into the camera, which isn't great. But it shows him in the line and kind of tells you the story behind the tears, and your eyes go right to those eyes in the tears. He knew how to frame a shot. Got close, but not too close. Just a wonderful story. You can read more about the story behind this photo if you want to. Just beautifully framed and just kind of a wonderful moment. And the story of what this little kid has gone through just to get to the point where he's playing this violin is just, it's really moving. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but go in and read it. So the framing was really key there. That's what we were after. Keep the camera steady for at least 10 seconds with any B-roll or in your interviews. Make sure you're steady. Keep your elbows on the table if you're shooting it that way. I've got tripods you can check out to mount them on a tabletop tripod or a stand-up tripod. They're lightweight, easy to carry. Come from Kodak. They're very cheap, but they're really lightweight and they're not hard to transport at all. But always keep yourself steady. If you hold your camera way out like this, your hand's going to start to shake after about 8 to 10 seconds. But if you keep it in close to your body and your elbows in, it'll keep it steadier. And unless you're swaying back and forth or the subject swaying back and forth, you don't want shaky video. That's not what you want. We were not shooting the Blair Witch Project here. So don't just think in terms of sound bites, but think in terms of context. Don't edit your video or audio down so far that it changes the meaning of what the person's talking about. So make sure that the sound clip gives the full context of what the person was saying. Shoot a variety of angles. I think Laura Sposato in her Mexican Gray Wolf video did a really good job of that. Shot all kinds of different angles over the back of the pickup, through the mirror, side mirror, all kinds of different things to get these really unique angles of what was happening with the wolf. Also give people a lot of space. Don't crop off the top of their head and make them look squat. If you're framing a body, try to have it cut off at the waist or at the knees, not the ankles or elbows or wrists. Try to give people a little bit of room. It's hard, like when you're shooting sports, because they're constantly moving. You're moving the camera. But if you're just framing somebody for an interview, chest or the waist is a good place to frame them. But give them a little space above their head and also below their chin, so you have room for the lower third where to put the text and their name and stuff like that. Kind of apply that rule of thirds. Third of the frame above the eyes, 1/3 of it below the neck. It's a good way to think about it. You don't want to shoot too far away, but not too tight, especially when you're doing the Q&A, the question and answer interview. Focus the story into 3 words. This is helpful when you start to edit your story. You have all these video clips you bring back. You're like, oh my God, how am I going to tell a coherent story with this? Who did what? Like with Laura Sposato, it was helping Mexican gray wolves. She started there, and then she got into, okay, I can tell this as a process. How do they help the gray wolf? Well, I'm going to tell the process of how they do it. So kind of start there. Even do a little sketch outline of storyboard of what you're going to, what clips you're going to use. But focus that story into 3 words: noun, verb, object. Who did what? And that helps focus your story for editing, saves a lot of time, especially if you're working in a group environment. A lot of what you'll shoot early on is just you. But final project, you'll have a partner and stuff, and it's helpful. Always wear headphones when you're recording and editing. Most phones allow you to plug your earbuds in, or you have wireless, and you can hear the audio as you're recording it. It's very important to do that. Also, when you're editing, have your earbuds in. We're going to edit audio in here right after the midterm, like week 9 or 10. And I'll have you wear your earbuds because you need to be able to hear the audio. You may have great video for your interview, but if the audio isn't good, you've got a lot of work on your hands and might not even be able to salvage the video. So good audio is as important as good video when you're shooting. Always seek great natural sound and do not talk while shooting. If you ask someone a question, don't sit there and go, This was a bad habit I had when I started shooting with my cameras and my phone. Because I was used to being a print reporter where I could say, oh yeah, and agree with them. Now when I ask someone a question and record them, I just hold up the camera and I nod at them. I don't say a word until my next question. Give a little space at the end of their answer. Gives you a chance to have some dead air and clip the sound bite or the video bite. And also it gives them a little time to kind of catch their breath and think about, maybe they'll give you more to the answer. But don't rush them with the next question. Just wait, give it a second or two, and then ask the next question. Helps with editing big time, especially if you're recording a long video. Usually I do my questions one at a time and I'll record each question. So I have a separate video clip of each question. It's a good way to do it. Honor great lighting. Always put the camera on the shadow side of the subject. This usually takes a couple of assignments before students start to get the hang of it. My class last spring was really good at this, and they really listened to this one. They were good with audio and getting close to the subject. They were also good at lighting and framing the shot. Always shoot on the shadow side. Here you're shooting a little bit to the left, so rule of thirds. The shadow side is her right side of the face, our left side of the screen. And you notice you can see her ear and stuff like that. The lighting is coming from the right, shining to the left. So you're shooting on the shadow side. If I shot on the other side, it'd be very difficult to see like this. Here I'm shooting on the light side or the wrong side. And here it's all dark and I lose detail. Okay, these all came from CBS News, 60 Minutes. These are veteran videographers that made these mistakes. Here's one from the wrong side. You see this big shadow going over his ear. If they would have moved this camera setup maybe 4 feet to the left, they would have had a beautiful shot. All this would have been lit. All this would have been lit, and you would have been just fine with him. But you shoot on the shadow side, even with this lighting in the background, it's a very nice shot. Okay. So shoot on the shadow side. So here's one, an example from a documentary. Lisa Olson's a friend of mine. She went to journalism school with me years ago, and she did this book called Code of Silence that exposed federal judges from sexually abusing colleagues. It is earth-shattering book. You won't believe what she discovered in here and how they cover it up too. And she's being interviewed for a documentary about her book, and they shot rule of thirds, shot her off center. But it was so dark. Even they shot on the shadow side, which is good, but you still lost all the lighting on the left side of her face, our right. That makes it, kind of cuts her face in half. And, if they just put a little bit of lighting over here on the right, maybe turned a lamp on or something, you could have seen all of her face. It's just a good example of too far to the right, too much shadow on it. Another thing about the rule of thirds with photos, this is a good example of it. The subject shouldn't look directly into the camera. Good lighting here. The rule of thirds, you've got the really nice, 4-column photo in the Chicago Tribune here. It's got the pastor in the lower right third, upper left third is a stained glass window. Notice how the photographer got on the ground and shot up to make him look. This is what we call a hero shot. Really big shot of this person. This is what we call an environmental portrait hero shot. Because it's a beautiful portrait, well lit. The lighting was coming in through the side. I think you might have had some staged lighting too here for it. Down below, you've got this photo of the former governor. And it's just a regular, just portrait shot of him. It was shot on the lit side, not on the shadow side. So there is a little bit of loss on the left side, his right side of his face, our left. Eye level's okay, but this angle shooting up really made it, gave us that hero effect to it. Really, really cool. So it's cool. A really nice way of framing that shot. And again, the reminder, always hold the camera horizontally for YouTube and TV, vertical for Twitter, Instagram, Snap, and so on. Easy way to remember it is your TV is horizontal, so hold it horizontal for TV. Vertical, you wouldn't hold it for TV that way, even though we do see vertical video on TV and YouTube. Sometimes it looks terrible, but it's fine for things like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, things like that. Good way to remember it. Little 11th bonus commandment, and this isn't going to be on the midterm. I'll ask you to name 5 of the 10 commandments maybe on your midterm. But avoid Instagram filters and effects on apps with news stories. When we start editing photos in our Photoshop session of the semester, we'll talk a little more about this and show you, how AI can get you in trouble. But I show you just some basic editing techniques to help you with color balance and things like that. We're not altering news photos in any way to make them darker, too light, anything like that. But we're about truth telling in journalism, so we want to help people better understand the video or the photo. So we don't want to adjust the color and lighting too much on it to make it too drastic. Same with our editing our clips. We don't want to cut out valuable information that changes the context of what the person said. Now, this one's not on the midterm, but these other 10, I'm going to ask you, to name 4 of the 10 commandments for shooting web video. So be ready to answer those types of questions. So that's all I had for this class. Just a reminder that next week we will be back in SEO 1200 on Tuesday, September 10th. So thanks for your attention. Hope you hit the pause button a few times during the video. It's pretty long, but we wanted to get you through all these classes with me out of town. So recording them was the best option. We'll see you.